Anne Hathaway was cast as Catwoman, and people were like, "Oh, that's a terrible idea. She's the Disney princess." And then that first image came out, and they're like, "Oh, look at her. She looks terrible." And then the movie comes out, and everyone's like, "She was the best thing in the movie." Same with Heath Ledger, like, oh, the gay cowboys playing the Joker. And people need to step back with Cyclops and just wait to see what happens. And I'm not saying what they'll do will be great. I have no idea. But that's the thing. I have no idea, so I can't judge it yet. I will say that what they've done so far with All New X-Men, and the second issue came out today, I don't know how the future's not being changed right now. The future should automatically be changed as soon as Beast went back in time. When he then brought the young X-Men forward in time. When the X-Men have dealt with time travel so much, and this is one of the biggest, if not the most, if not the biggest X-Men story that there's ever been, this time travel isn't making sense so far.
Well, it's Bendis. It'll take a while.
Well, that's not how time travel works. Well, in X-Men, that's not how time travel works.
True.
The events should be changed automatically. But, I don't know, when young Beast sees that's what he looks like, he would then do all in his power to, not be all blue and furry, I'd imagine. So, the fact that he's still all blue and furry when they go forward in time makes no sense. Anyway, the thing that I'm looking forward to seeing what young Cyclops will do when he meets older Cyclops. Thus far, I've kind of been underwhelmed with, well, this is going to be really interesting when Jean sees that the school is named after her. It was mentioned in passing, and that was it. And I was like, oh, well, okay. She was just like, why is the school named after me? And then they moved on. So, but I don't see why people, to get back on topic, I don't see how people can say that Cyclops has been ruined yet. Because nothing's happened yet. I definitely can't see how the X-Men could ever really trust him again when he's doing what he's doing. But, like I said, not enough has happened yet for me to judge. When I think Cyclops could have been potentially ruined was Grant Morrison's run on New X-Men. I needed that run. And I don't care if I'm in the minority. I hate Grant Morrison for what he took Scott and Jean's relationship, and because whoever it was, he or Marvel, were like, we want them to break up. He had Cyclops psychically cheat on Jean. Very out of character for Cyclops. He's not someone that does that, and he tries to justify it by saying it's just thoughts. This is a guy that's had a psychic link with the love of his life since they were teenagers.
Yeah.
That makes no sense.
Well,
and you can say, oh, he bonded with Apocalypse, so he was in a darker place. No, it's still, he wouldn't be that selfish.
Yeah. I personally like a lot of Grant Morrison stuff, but that was one thing I was like, that doesn't really make sense. Even though I was, I'm a Grant Morrison fan, and I did enjoy the run, but there were some points where I was like, really? That happened?
Yeah, I don't think Grant understands X-Men that well. And I've heard him talk about it, I'm just like, that's what you think the X-Men is? Okay. And I definitely think Cyclops had the potential to be ruined, but thank God Joss Whedon happened, because that would have been really bad, Scott and Emma in a relationship. But Joss Whedon made Emma Frost a very likable character, and made Scott and Emma's relationship something that was fun to read. And, other things, like what they did with Emma in House of M and stuff like that. Thank God that they put the right person on that, writing that relationship.
Yeah.
So, like I said, Scott had the potential to be ruined, and, people talk about how Cyclops is a dick, and if they've only read that, I'd be like, yeah, that guy's an ass. But, you know, thankfully I know that, in my opinion, Grant Morrison just didn't understand Cyclops.
Yeah. Well, I know there's one character that you think is, the more you read about him, the more you think they're ruining him, and that's Wolverine. And I really, I can kind of see it, but then there are other points where I'm like, I'm okay with what some of the stuff they've done, but there are other points where I'm like, I just don't see that in his character at some points. Like I'm still kind of half and half on him running a whole school. And looking back on Schism, it felt kind of like him being a hypocrite, you know, of what he said to Cyclops for what a majority of what happened. But I'm gonna let you take the reins on, you know, how you feel about Wolverine now.
Well, I just got done this morning watching all of X-Men the Animated Series, and watching this was reminded of why I like Wolverine. And the Wolverine that I'm looking forward to, I'm really looking forward to the Wolverine movie. But I can't stand this guy in comics. He is so shoved down your throats. Avengers, and he's got X-Men, and he's running his own team of X-Men. Plus, they're doing that bullshit with the first X-Men, or whatever that crap is called. Like, I'm so sick of hating this character, and to the point where he is not the character that people fell in love with. People fell in love with Wolverine because people wanted to live vicariously through Wolverine. He was the guy that said F you to the authority. He basically said, you know, F you to the man. And he did his own thing. Like, one of his most famous lines is, and I've just forgotten that. That's great.
I go where I want to go?
I go where I want.
That pretty much summed up Wolverine.
Exactly. That he does whatever the fuck he wants, and that's why people liked him. He didn't care about what he was told to do, and that's why some people didn't like Cyclops, because they lived vicariously through Wolverine, because he didn't give a shit about what the authority told him to do, and Cyclops was the authority. And that's why people fell in love with that character. People wanted to be Wolverine. He was so cool. And now, he's what he kind of despised. He is the authority. He's the guy that's standing in the three-piece suit, leading this big memorial for Xavier, leading the X-Men. He's that guy now. That's not who Wolverine is.
Yeah. So in your opinion, do you think Wolverine is a ruined character for you right now?
I think they could bring him back to what people potentially right now. I can't stand that character. And all this stuff about in Schism with him being all, you can't. If Jean could see you now, Summers, you want to send these kids into battle. Okay, this guy that claims to be the best there is at what he does, and what he does is slight, and he calls Scott heartless, and then he's like, we should kill Hope. It's like, what? You were just talking about how you don't want to put kids in the battlefield, and here you are wanting to kill one. Double fucking standards. And that's the thing. He's so inconsistent right now, and that's what I don't like. Yeah. So everything I liked about that character is very much non-existent in the current.
Yeah. Well, on the other hand, there are characters that were ruined for me, but I think have gotten to a new where I like them now. On another on the same, kind of switching gears, if that's all right.
Yeah.
I think one character that I think was, one character I absolutely hated, but it changed for me over time. Thank God for the writer. Was General Ross when he became the Red Hulk. Jeff Loeb. Man, you could make a very irritating character real quick now, can't you?
Well, current Jeff Loeb can, yeah.
Yeah, current Jeff Loeb can. I'm not saying Holiday's a bad character, not in the long shot, but Red Hulk, wow. But along came Jeff Parker, who made this character so awesome. And then I actually liked what they did with him, some of the stuff they did in Avengers. So that character, in my eyes, got redeemed. Same with a character like Hulk's son Scar, which could have easily been something so incredibly stupid. Instead, they make him incredibly badass. So that character could have, the character of Scar could have easily been ruined. But how Greg Pak handled him was another. How they went about handling that character was very well. That's kind of what you were saying. I think it depends on writers and how well, and also, you know, mandates. There were people who said, you know, Green Arrow fans who are very pissed off that no one seems to have a proper handle in the new DC 52 of how to handle Green Arrow right now.
Yeah, thank God for the show, because that's the only good Green Arrow thing out right now. Like, you know, towards the end of, you know, pre-New 52, what they were doing with Green Arrow, to stay. Like, I stuff as much as people have. There were a lot of people who didn't like it, and then they decided to write Green Arrow. Like, I don't get it. Why? you complaining that they didn't like the book, so they decided to make him even less likable, and yeah, I don't.
Yeah, so I think it all depends on you. Most of the time, I think it depends on writers to redeem a character, and that's kind of like when you look at some characters and what these changes do for them. And usually a lot of these changes don't stick, like when someone brings out a new Spider-Man costume and people are like, oh, the costume's been ruined. Really? Or when they bring out a new Iron Man armor. That's when I get really pissed off, when someone gets mad about when Tony changes his armor.
You know, Tony changing his armor has never been anything that really bothers me. There are definitely costume changes where I'm like, ugh. Well, you know, let's go back to Cyclops. Fuck's he going to be wearing in February?
Oh, yeah. You're still mad about that.
I'm not mad about that. That suit's horrible. Who in their right mind thinks that that is a good idea? Like, I thought they actually listened to fans when everyone went, no. Because it didn't show up for the longest time, and then when they started doing the teasers for Uncanny returning, I was like, oh, God. And, you know, Magneto's helmet doesn't bother me as much as some, just because I'm looking at Cyclops' thing. And I'm like, compared to that,
well,
Magneto...
now Magneto can't eat tacos.
Yeah, costumes ruining a character, I don't think... I don't know, I'm not someone who's that anal about art that it has to be, you know...
Yeah. I'm usually okay with costume changes to characters on the grounds of they don't stay forever.
Yeah, exactly. You know, obviously there are certain exceptions, but when you get to characters like Iron Man or characters from the X-Men, you know, they have so many different costumes over time that it's like, you know, there'll just be another costume in a bunch of years.
Yeah, I still say, like, I've never really had a problem with a lot of when X-Men characters have costume changes, like Rogue's 90s costume. Do you remember what she was wearing before? I don't.
I kind of do, but I don't know, the 90s costume is the most iconic thing. That's, like, X-Men have a lot of different costumes. I think they've been pretty consistent with their costumes for a while now, for a few years, but their costumes, generally speaking, always make sense. I'm saying generally speaking, but, you know, the major X-Men characters, their costumes, I just, you know, look at them and you're like, yeah, that's that character. There are certain exceptions, like, I've never been a fan of weird costume with the egg beater on his head. You know, I like, you know, Wolverine's had a lot of different costumes over time, even though for a while it was just the same, but different colors, you know. Like Cyclops, I don't know, Cyclops a boring character, and I'm like, a man with that many